the sooner you can kind of get away from I'm doing this to basically feed my selfish desires of accumulation, accomplishment, consumption, the happier you're going to be. And, this really started for me maybe 5 years ago, which is kind of coincidentally when my business really started to grow. I really gave my business to God and said, God, this is where I need to be. I give it to you. Help show me the way.
Welcome to the In the Arena podcast. My name is Jared Miguez, a co-host on this podcast that brings you the inspiring stories of our clients who are leaders and innovators across different industries in Southeast Louisiana. They are visionary entrepreneurs, savvy real estate professionals, media creators, military business owners, and community champions. And we are going to showcase the remarkable achievements and share their personal stories. Tune in for insightful conversations, valuable lessons, and motivational stories that are going to reveal their secrets to success and offer you insights to help you on your own path. Welcome to In the Arena podcast. All right, guys, welcome to the In the Arena podcast. Today I have a really good friend of mine, Drew Pearson, on the show. And like we were just discussing, this is a show to help promote businesses in St. Tammany Parish, so they're founded or started here, and also to teach our audience about how to be a better business owner. And I think you're a great person to do that today. So thanks for coming on the show with us.
Thanks. I'm excited. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. So usually we start out by asking the guests a little bit about themselves, but I'm going to kind of go on a limb here, and I'm going to ask you, what's the one thing that a business has got to do in order for them to ultimately grow and scale and accomplish their goals?
That's a great question. I think lots of people have ideas, and ideas are great. You need an idea. But what really separates people is processes and procedures. And it's the part that most founders don't like. We naturally don't think that way in our brains. We're kind of a figure it out later type mentality, generally speaking. But the only way to lead is to have people know, where are we going, what are we doing, and how am I going to hold you accountable? And that really just comes down to clear processes and procedures and holding people accountable through those systems and metrics. It's really not glamorous. It's not fun.
Mm-hmm.
But
the success is.
That's right. But that's how you get to where you want to go.
Yeah. So when did you realize that as part of your career?
I don't know. There's been a lot of learning and growth for me. I'm certainly, if you talk to my friends and family, they wouldn't tell you Drew is some sort of like logical engineer-based mind. So there's been a lot of work that I've had to do to try to fit myself more into that mold. But I got into what's called EOS maybe 5 years ago, before my business was really ready for it, but I had a plan to try to get there. And EOS stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. So just like your computer runs on an operating system, every business runs on an operating system. Now, you may not have one, but not having one is still an operating system. And so by just getting crystal clear, it gets a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
So is EOS your first introduction to an operating system as a whole, or have you operated in other companies? Or
no, I've never had a job. I've never been employed as a W-2. I'm kind of an unemployable person at this point.
I love that for you.
Yeah. And so I've mostly worked for either as a commercial real estate agent, where you basically have free reign, like there's no rules, like can you make money or not. And then I worked for a shop, kind of a private equity shop, 5 or 6 man shop, which was like, there was no HR, there was really no rules there either. Yeah. So I don't really have this background. We just had to figure it out.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I guess somewhat similar too. I mean, other than kind of creating it ourselves, never worked in a W-2. That was where, I never worked for a business that actually had an operating system.
Right.
I never. I guess in a good or a bad way, you learn from other people's bad habits, or I didn't have any real habits to break because I never worked for a business with an operating system. But
I think the first trigger I want to add to that I think comes through with every comment that you've made thus far is like that own personal self-awareness. Because you're right. Most people that have the guts to go ahead and start a business are not thinking, how am I going to do it? It's just like, this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
And then we go do it.
Right.
And then at some point you have that sense of awareness of like, this has been really hard for me to figure out how we're getting there. So am I not good at this? Do I need to add more people? Do I need to put something in place to make me better at what I'm doing? Because oftentimes when you're getting that started, it's not sustainable long term.
It never is.
Right? And so, I mean, I did have experience working with a lot of businesses of different styles of operating systems and kind of helping them scale. But I just think there's a beauty to just being thrown into chaos and then building it while you're there. Teaches you a lot.
Yeah, and that's the only way to do it. And I could do it a whole lot faster the second time, knowing what I know now. I think another big epiphany for me too is there are people who love to do what I am not good at and actually can't stand, and vice versa. I have skills that other people don't like doing. Like
You literally said earlier you like to cold call.
That's right. So like,
You're crazy.
If I had a superpower,
most people.
it is to pick up the phone and like just call a stranger and talk to them about real estate. Or whatever. And so for most, like my wife, she could never lift the phone up and do that. And that's great. I love that. And vice versa, my wife has tons of other skills that I lack. And so kind of thinking about how to build a team, especially when you're more of kind of a lone ranger mentality for me, I had to shift to more of a, how do we build a team, put all the pieces in place in order to get us there is another big shift for me over the last couple of years.
So let's lay the foundation, because I think what you've done over the last 15 years in business has been pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So you started out as a commercial real estate agent.
Yep.
And is that kind of where you cut your teeth on the real estate business?
Yeah. So I think backing up a little bit, I was never great in school. I was kind of a B or a C student. Like I don't have
Getting by.
That's right. Getting by, like no great athletic career, like a pretty average person just in general. But somewhere along the lines, either I heard or figured out that you could own real estate. A tenant would help pay for that real estate and make a profit at the same time. And I was like, I'm not very smart, but this is a good idea.
Great idea.
We should do more of this. And so I didn't have much. I didn't have some family background, lending relationships, a rich uncle, none of that stuff, but try to figure this out. Got into commercial real estate, and so kind of spent 10 years there as a broker selling industrial and retail properties around the country. And, had some mild success, but was no closer to the getting on the ownership side. And then so in 2018, started my own firm and started making some acquisitions with some partners, bought some industrial, medical office, and then kind of slowly worked into storage over the course of 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. So at this time, how many storage facilities do you own?
We've got about, I think it's 14 or 15 stores now in 2 states. We serve about 2,500 customers, a team of 6 or 7 folks at this point. And then we own some other industrial and some medical office assets that, I think will kind of slowly unwind and move more into our core business.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that is the most impressive for you is that how intentional you are. And then, you don't give yourself enough credit about how smart you are, but also I think you do a really good job of keeping things simple.
Yeah.
I think that's important. I think some people who are founders and business owners can get caught chasing squirrels. And I think we actually experienced one time where you kind of thought about going after a squirrel, and then you got back to your core business because you realized that I don't know enough about that. Even though it is in the same, it is real estate, it wasn't the storage facilities that you're so accustomed to dealing with. So going back to the system that you've operated within, what allows you to stay so focused and disciplined on keeping things simple and focusing on your core business?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think my life, I try to keep my life pretty simple, and so we don't have to get into all these other things, but
do we?
Or we can.
We're trying to help people out here.
I don't know if I want to put all my opinions out. You're like, this guy's a wacko.
Yeah.
But I just try to really keep things really simple. It's faith, family, business, and I don't do a ton of extracurriculars. I say no a lot more than I say yes. And when you just look at people who have had outsized success, you'll see a trend. They're monitoring both their time and their energy. And so people, I don't think, give enough credit to both of those things. Like a lot of people operate their lives like a dentist do. If we have an extra 10 minutes, we fill that slot with something. But that all gets into your brain power. It all affects you and your decision making. So I really try to keep things simple.
Is my husband in this room? I feel like he's behind.
I think I like this guy. He sounds like a good guy. And then we also look at people who are really great in the investment world. They just wait for their pitch. They're really patient, and okay, here's our parameters. If we're patient enough, if we work our process, we're going to get a pitch down the middle that we can take a good swing at. Mm-hmm. And that's hard. Like, it's hard being patient. I think Charlie Munger said, one of the hardest things is having $10 million in cash and doing nothing, especially when your peers are making money, trading crypto, fill in the blank, but like this is what we do, and we're going to just be patient here. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that.
Yeah.
But it comes back down to knowing this is what we do. The number of people that don't want to put in the time and energy to truly establishing what their purpose is so that they can hold true to it, I think is the first misstep.
Yeah.
Right.
So let's go down this route. I think it's, we know enough about EOS, and we help other businesses create operating systems that they operate on. So, the first step in understanding the purpose of your business is understanding the values and what you're trying to do. So how did you identify what your values were going to be for your organization?
That's a good question. I don't think that you don't figure out your values. Your values are who you already are. So you kind of just discover through, okay, what am I giving to the world? And then what do I kind of believe in? This is what bubbles to the top. And so our 3 core values are 1% better every day. That old adage, you're either growing or you're dying. There ain't no third direction. That's just it. Like there is no staying the same. So from the top down, bottom up, we're trying to get better every day. The next one is the buck stops here. Kind of a play on First Stop Stores, name of my company. And it's just about taking accountability. This is my job. This is my customer. This is my store. I'm going to, ownership's on me. And then the last one is paint behind the parking poles. And there's concrete parking poles around all of our buildings. We paint those on every other year, so that people can't bump and damage the building. And you can paint 3/4 of that pole because no one sees the backside between the pole and the building. But we paint the backside because that's the right way to do things. That's the First Stop way. So those are our 3 core values, and that's what we're looking for. That's what we hold people accountable to. That's what I ask people to hold me accountable to. And so it gets, this is what we hire, fire, promote on, and it gets past like, well, I was late to work 4 times. It gets past some of these trivial things, and we get to look at a macro level. Are you a good culture fit here? And here's how we define culture. And then we have some other key metrics that we monitor our people on. They're very simple. It's like we want all of our managers to get 3 Google reviews a month, and we have a store score process and you need to get 85 or above. And so that's a mixture of both property management and customer service. So it's really easy. Like if you're getting 85 or above, you're getting your Google reviews, and you have a plus on all 3 core values, like you're a fit here. We want you here. Yeah. We want you to know that you're a good fit here.
Yeah.
And you're doing it with a smile on your face, right? Like
Right.
Business always comes with stress, but to me, it's so easy to identify value misalignment when you just see people that are unhappy.
That's a great point. That's a
right?
great point.
I mean, you could see their energy level when they come in. And so even whether they want to admit it or not, because sometimes they don't spend the time and they're like, yes, I'm here. I love the people. We get attached to one another.
Yeah.
But when that misalignment's present, you can see it in their
absolutely.
activity.
So how are you identifying people before you, like when you're interviewing somebody for a job? How do you identify the values in them?
Yeah, it's not a perfect, we don't have this all the way figured out. And we do have a full people process. And so when it starts on Indeed, instead of trying to attract someone, we try to repel people.
Amen.
So we're starting off like I'm a Christian. We're a Christian-based organization. We're going to put a verse right there on the top of the LinkedIn or the Indeed profile. So already you're starting to get a sense of our core values.
Nice.
There's a 3-minute video there that tells about me and my family, kind of a quick history of our firm, so that you can kind of learn more about me and who we are. And then we'll kind of get into roles and responsibilities. We typically have about 200 applicants. About 24 will fit our personality criteria, what we're looking for.
What are you using to determine that?
We're using Culture Index.
Okay.
It's one of a couple of really good ones. Disc out there's a really good one. There's a few others.
Cultural index is good.
But I think it's a good idea to use some sort of technology to kind of help peel back the layers. You're going to get that interviewee's best during the interview process, and it's a 15 or 20 minutes. It's really hard to know everything. So any advantage we can get to learn more about someone, I think, is a good idea. So then from those, 24 candidates, we'll do maybe a dozen phone calls and get down to 4 in-person interviews, and then try to make a selection of 1 or 2 from those.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how the math works out. And then we're only right 75% of the time. So, one of those 4 hires we totally missed, and we've got to go back to the well again. So we're not perfect.
But the process of holding them accountable to the values and all those things after they're hired, it's a lot. I think it's simpler for me maybe, and maybe other people don't see the hiring as an easier process. But for me, it's easier to see how you hold somebody accountable once they're in your organization. You get your metrics and your values at that point. But bringing in the right person and making sure. But that's great. That's great advice to repel somebody before trying to attract people.
It's my favorite thing in an interview. Like, this job is so hard. If you're not up for the challenge, like, we will drive people crazy.
Yeah.
We explain our values to them, and I'm like, if you have any value misalignment, you will hate it here.
Right.
Like, we're intense on purpose.
Yeah.
It'll be hard. And then we also send them away and get them to write back to us after reading our values, because we define what they mean to us, and it's on our website.
That's great.
And they kind of have to write a little memo back to us so we can see whether they truly embody them or understand them.
That's a great idea.
And some of ours are the typical. And so it's always a red flag to me when they just pick a typical one, right? Because same thing when I'm working with business owners and helping them form their values, and they pick integrity or teamwork. I'm like, these are my two problems with it. Everybody picks this one, so what does it mean to you? And if they cannot immediately come up with a definition that means something to them, like, you're just putting it there to put it there.
Right. And
because it's a good word, and everybody operates with integrity, right? But it won't have any impact unless it truly means something to you. Right. And the same way with teamwork. Like, of course, everyone's like, I want to help anybody. Yeah, and then balls get dropped, and then you don't have single point accountability because we're a team. You know, it can disrupt things very easily.
Yeah, I mean, no one's like, if you don't have integrity, you can work here.
That's
Something
right.
like that makes no sense.
We hate people with integrity.
Yeah. So.
All right, so value tool, very, very great for not only identifying hires, but also holding people accountable, making sure that team follow your system. From a purpose standpoint, I think a lot of people hear that, like, what is your purpose, and they get thrown off by that. They have a hard time being able to determine what their long-term purpose is, or where they're going in 3 or 5 years, maybe 10 years, even less. So, how do you identify what the purpose of your organization is?
Yeah, I don't have a great answer for this. Like, I don't have some clear purpose that I could just spout off to you, I think we all need to kind of back up further, and it's like, is there a God? Mm-hmm. Yes or no? If there is a God, does he love me? Yes or no? Or is there multiple gods? And so, like, there's a lot of things we need to kind of back up. And so if there is a God, if he does love me, has he given me any gifts, skills? If he has, how can I use those to serve others? So then once we kind of identify what maybe do I have a gift and talent in, how can I, like the parable, multiply those talents? Mm-hmm. And that's hopefully where we should be moving in our lives as we get older. So that's kind of how I would answer that.
You said you weren't going to go deep. And here you are. Is there a God? There is.
Yes, there is a God. And yes,
he loves you.
He does love us. But this is a relatively new concept. Like, the Romans and Greeks didn't believe there was one God.
Right.
They believed there was lots of gods. Mm-hmm. And they didn't believe that these gods loved men. And so
they always gravitated to, like, one main God, though. Like,
yeah. So anyway, but I also think that, we have seasons in our lives, like we have kind of decades in our lives where things change. For instance, before you're married, when you have kids, mm-hmm. I'm guessing when your kids leave, different priorities are going to kind of crop up. Mm-hmm.
So your purpose can shift as you move.
I wouldn't say change, but when Apollo 13 landed on the moon, they say it was off course. They were off course 94% of the time, and so they were constantly making these adjustments. And I think that's how our lives are. We're kind of constantly making these adjustments.
Yeah, I like it. Mm-hmm. I think one of our values is vocation. And so I think that alone kind of guides our purpose, that it had to be something broad in that sense of how do our collective gifts impact the people that are around us. So it became very simple. Mm-hmm. Like, we want to have the greatest impact on our community because that's what's best for our families and our children. Right. And then you create a legacy. So it's kind of beautiful when people spend the time, how full circle your values and your purpose and your existence all become.
Absolutely. Yep.
So when you move to the operating system process, you got the values and you get the purpose, and then you get more into how you set your goals and your ideal client, which is going to shift you similar like to following the path of just focusing on the storage facilities instead of other things. So, like, how do you set your 1, 3, 5 year goals for yourself right now? Because we're January right now, so we're kind of gearing up for 2025.
One of the challenging parts of my business is we're not just like a straight sales business. So if you were a straight sales business, we want to make X revenue or find X new clients. We're an investment-based business at our core. we kind of have two businesses. One's the investment side and one is serving storage customers. And those are two different things. So, anybody can grow their investment business by just overpaying. And obviously you don't want to do that. So you kind of have to have a loose goal based off of your return metrics.
Your balance sheet.
Exactly.
One's balance sheet, one's a P&L.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I don't know. Like, we kind of have a loose target, but if we miss that, I'm okay with it. Yeah. I kind of come back to the prospecting process.
Yeah. Identifying opportunities.
That is kind of our blocking and tackling. If we are making, I'll just say 20 calls a week, sending out an offer to a month, we're doing our job. And if we do that over a 3-year period, opportunities are going to shake out.
Yeah.
Oftentimes what we're buying, they're only trading hands 3 or 4 times over a 30-year period. So you kind of have to build these relationships and be right place, right time.
Yeah. So I was going to ask this question kind of towards the end, but you brought it up. You have the two businesses, really. Like, you have the investment side of your business and you have the actual operation of all your stores.
Yeah, it's property management and investment, essentially.
Yeah. So I think what you do which is interesting, and if you ever need to raise any more money, I think this is a good way. This is a good opportunity for you to pitch how you do it. I think the fact that you don't create funds, you're treating each individual project as its own project with its own partners on that, and then that partnership is going to then create a relationship with your property management company that's going to service those stores, right? And most property managers charge a percentage of the revenue. Is that how your stores operate as well?
Correct, yeah.
So you build that into your pro forma on the front end.
Yep.
So when you're looking for investors and you're partnering with people, are you following the same process that you're looking when you're hiring an employee for your property management company?
We're not quite as intentional. I mean, it's basically just people I've known or close friends of them. It's just friends and family, neighbors, things like that. On the investment side, yeah. And we don't raise a ton of money. Like, I got friends that raise $5 and $10 million, and I don't know if we've raised $5 million total. So they're all relatively small check sizes, $100,000 or so, give or take. And I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Yeah, I just didn't know if you had like a way of vetting your partners in a similar way. I mean, it sounds like
an ideal partner, right?
Yeah,
an ideal client.
You'll learn quickly that not all money is the same, and you're looking for more than just a check. I'm looking for more of mentorship. Like, I've got partners who own a lot of real estate, and they act a little bit of a mentor. Maybe they bring lending relationships to the table. Maybe they're just great men who value their faith and their family, and so there's a true friendship there also.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we think about it.
Yeah, because in the relationship, whenever somebody invests with you, the expectations are clearly set on the front end about how long the money is going to be outstanding, when the returns are going to be paid, and then you're not going and putting on the internet that you're looking to raise money. You're networking with your friends, building relationships.
Yeah.
The true EOS way of doing that, right, is networking, finding people with common values, and knowing that over time, and then if the opportunity presents itself, offering an opportunity to partner on the right deal.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think we're probably going to stay in the smaller realm of things. We're not going to be a big fancy, raise institutional money or family office type money. I think we can do just fine with a smaller firm, 24 assets, and just kind of grow and recycle over time.
Yeah.
Keeping it simple.
Yeah,
sure.
Keeping it simple.
And then again, we've talked a lot about the actual management of the stores and things like that. Do you have any partners on that end, or?
No, yeah, I just own the management company.
Gotcha. And the process that you follow with EOS it happens on a regular basis with your stores that you're managing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have a weekly level 10 call with all the managers where we discuss our metrics and to-do lists. Once a month, we'll look at our monthly KPIs. I'll do a site visit on a quarterly basis, and then the other 2 months I'm not there, we'll do a virtual site audit with some photos and some videos. We'll just touch in on phone calls. Calls are recorded, so we'll just kind of do a little customer service checkup. And that's kind of how we monitor things.
Yeah, and those stores operate without you being there, but twice a month. As you said?
Yeah. We have a full time, and we have a manager there on site.
Yeah. And just one manager at each location.
Mm-hmm.
And then does that require any more employees other than that one manager?
No, self storage is a good business. It's relatively low touch on the customer service side. Length of stay is about 18 months, but people don't go to their unit every month, and so it's a pretty good business.
Yeah. I always imagine you opening up like storage units like once a month that people don't pay, and finding all kind of like crazy stuff in there.
It's just like a mattress and a bag of clothes. There's rarely anything good there. And we did have a Harley that we had to auction off one time. That was the coolest thing we've ever had to auction off.
Did you ride it first?
I don't have the keys to the title, so no, I couldn't ride it. But yes, somebody did.
No jump, huh?
Yeah.
So let's shift gears from your business to about you personally. I think it's impressive that your ability to keep things simple. And we don't have to go too much detail into things if you don't necessarily want to talk about it. But I think that you do a great job of creating a boundary between your work and your life, and your family is important to you. And I think that some business owners think that you got to redline it all the time in order for you to be successful.
Yeah.
And I do feel like there are stages in life when you have to.
Sure.
But talk about your perspective on for Drew's perspective on the amount of time you spend with your family and your work and the season of life that you're in.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good question. I really look at time as a much longer continuum. First of all, like there is no grow to sell and then get to the beach. Like I would go crazy if I sat on the beach for more than 4 days.
Yeah.
So I'm actually looking at this through my life. Like I hope to be able to do exactly what I'm doing when I'm 80. Hopefully I'll have better relationships, better lender relationships, better partners, more capital. And, God willing, I've got 5 children. Some or all of them will get into some facet of the business, and this could go on another 50 years. Mm-hmm. I mean, all we're essentially doing is buying older real estate and making it better. So maybe it's storage today, but it could be a variety of different asset types over the next 50 or 60 years.
Yeah.
It's a simple business to teach, and so I can do that. I can teach my kids that. So that's part of why, I'm not necessarily in a hurry. Going back to seasons in time, your children are only under your roof for 18 years, and arguably those most formative years, kind of between 3 and 14, 15, are when you really can set the foundation. And so I'm trying to be aware of that and spend a lot of time with my kids. We actually started homeschooling this year. So again, we're around our kids like a ridiculous amount of time.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping the bet pays off. You know, not every day is easy, but it feels like this is the path God's called us to.
Yeah.
It's certainly not for everybody, but we've really enjoyed it. And I think it's got some good fruits. It can bear some good fruits.
So what's the amount of time that you're able to spend with your kids on a weekly basis right now?
Oh, I mean, it's a lot. I don't know. I'm probably at the office. I don't know if I can say this out loud. It's not a lot. But, I'm probably at the office 20, 25 hours a week.
Yeah.
And then I'm at home or with the kids the rest of the time. Now, I'm still working at night. I mean, I'll be up at 4 o'clock, returning emails, doing some stuff. But we're just around a lot together.
That's successful entrepreneurship, though.
Yeah.
Right.
Setting your own schedule, right?
Right.
If your business is operating, it's operating.
Right.
That's something that
Having the comfort of letting go, I think, is what they want to blame it on their family, but it's like you're just not living your priorities or spending the time or letting go of things that you truly can let go of, and it would be just fine.
And I'm not great at that, and that's such a great point.
No one is when they start out in business. It is a learned behavior.
Yeah, and having the right people there, and we've got a few more. We've got another key hire to make, and I think after that key hire, I can kind of continue to let
You'll be down to 10 hours a week. All right.
Well, I think it's just moving from less ops to more on the growth side of the business, which is where I enjoy
Get back
this.
to those calls for you.
That's right.
Yeah. Which, I mean, the EOS talks about the fact that they have the square, right? The bottom quadrant is things that you're not good at, you don't want to do. Then it's the things you're good at, but you don't like doing, and things that you don't like doing, what you're good at. And then the top left is things you're good at that you enjoy doing. And being able to live your life in that top quadrant is going to make it so much more enjoyable, and you probably have more time and be able to spend time doing what you want to do. Because I believe that the purpose of business is to create the perfect life for yourself. Perfect life for me might be different for you.
It is, yeah.
But you shouldn't compare what you're doing to what somebody else is doing and their success. The point of this whole thing is to create the life that you want to live. You just have to be intentional about it. And I think that if anybody takes anything away from this conversation, it's that having intentionality around what you're doing in your business, and then just holding yourself accountable to staying focused on those priorities and that purpose is I think what you've done really well. And it's impressive to see. I mean, we do spend time outside of just the business world. We get to see each other at church and we spend time with our families outside of this. And you have great kids and a great family. So I think that you're accomplishing the things you set out to do. So I commend you for that for sure.
Well, thank you. It's hard work, as we all know, raising kids in a family. It's just kind of daily hard work.
Yeah. And things change.
Mm-hmm.
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Her kids are, you're not, Jillian's 9 or 10?
Dylan's 12.
Dylan's 12, jeez.
Yeah, and Jocelyn is going to be 8 this month.
Yeah.
So I'm in the extracurricular grind
Yeah.
with active kids, which is, you know, different than them. But it's always, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that stage. Like this is what you need to remember. And then
Yep.
it's just going to shift to a different chaos.
That's right. Soccer and baseball start this week, so here we go.
I had a great time playing football with your kids at the house the other day. It was fun.
That was fun.
And soccer. We were out in the backyard at a friend's house playing, and Drew was watching and just laughing because I was trying to wear out his kid kicking the soccer ball, but his kid was like never going to
happening,
stop.
right?
Drew was like, dude, you might as well
Like,
just
I got
hang.
you, old man. Like, this is going to keep
You might as well
going.
stop because he's never going to stop.
Yep.
That was fun. I haven't got to do that in a long time.
I would like to add on to something that you said. You know, I've certainly subscribed to this kind of like, oh, build your own life and freedom, whatever. I think that's largely just a myth. So I think the sooner you can kind of get away from I'm doing this to basically feed my selfish desires of accumulation, accomplishment, consumption, the happier you're going to be. And, you know, this really started for me maybe 5 years ago, which is kind of coincidentally when my business really started to grow. I really gave my business to God and said, God, this is where I need to be. I give it to you. Help show me the way. And I ended up kind of selling out of a partnership that I was a business I was a part of that was a successful business, but didn't feel like this is where I needed to be. Put all my focus onto this. And it's been transformative. And that allows me to say like, okay, yeah, maybe we should homeschool our kids. It doesn't allow me a lot of this free time, but I get to spend time where I think it's most important.
Yeah, removing attachments. My
Yeah,
husband
that's-
always says, like, are you removing the attachment? You
That's a
can't
great-
think clearly without it.
Yeah, I don't like this because my answer is like no. There's a lot of attachments in my life, but I try to.
We all do. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's society coming at us all the time.
Right.
So it's something that you have to be very, very active with.
Yes.
I can't remember if it was the Jesuits that he said. It says, show me a 7-year-old and you'll show me the man that he is. So like my husband's always like, these years are so important.
They are.
Like this is the foundation of who they are for the rest
This
of their
is it.
lives. So
This is it.
Yeah, somebody
I
else
could
did
have
the exact
botched that, but I know it's age 7.
No, I think
Yeah.
somebody said the exact same thing. Like if you go back, and I think it was particularly talking about a boy, but it's like you go back to a boy and see who he is at 7 and who he's going to be.
Yeah.
Whenever he's
It's some
older,
group.
Yeah.
The Jesuits.
which is interesting.
Yeah.
So you got anything else you want to add before we hop off? I mean, you know, you still got that little nugget, which is great, but
Yeah, no, I feel very fortunate. Real estate and self-storage has been good to our family, and glad to be here.
yeah, well, cool. We look forward to watching you and your growing, to spending time outside of the business world because it's good. I tell one of my goals last year was to spend more time with godly men like you, and you were on that list. So I hope this year we get to spend more time together.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. All right, bud. Thanks for
What
coming
about
on.
godly women? We'll end on that note. No, I'm kidding.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.